The Lord of the Rings is arguably the best movie trilogy to exist. The sheer amount of lore within the world of Middle-earth goes beyond the pages of Tolkien, beyond the notes he left behind, beyond what is seen in Peter Jackson's perfect adaptation, the extended edition especially, beyond even the hours of documentaries detailing a production that captured lightning in a bottle. The commentary that covers The Two Towers give even more information, and we're here to disclose those details. We will try to keep all information relegated to the director's and writer's commentary for the second film. So details better told in the behind-the-scenes features such as actor Viggo Mortensen breaking his toe when he kicks the helmet, or cracking his tooth while shooting the Battle of Helm's Deep, or almost drowning in an undertow. Wait, that happened? Jeez. Will not be covered on this list. Having the film start with Gandalf the Grey hints at his reappearance in the story, while also reorienting the audiences who went about their lives for a year what the established exposition is. An extension of Gandalf versus the Balrog was deleted due to budgetary reasons. The Balrog became a thing of slime once it hit the underground lake, and would climb up the endless stair to Zirak-Zigil. The slime Balrog gained more fire the higher up the mountain it went by collecting more oxygen for fuel. Studio notes for the movie requested less Gollum because without the full CG rendering, most couldn't imagine audiences would accept the character except through tiny doses. The Uruk-hai who sniffs man-flesh was played by Sala Baker, an orc extra throughout the trilogy, most notably as the actor inside of Sauron's suit of armor during the prologue of Fellowship of the Ring. Director Peter Jackson regrets not doing a cameo as a wild man of Dunland, considering his crazy hair. With all the complicated geopolitical conflict being set up for the Two Towers, the writers needed to simplify by being overt with the visual exposition, showing the white hand, the symbol of Saruman's faction, instead of explaining periodically what was a must. Grima Wormtongue's history that is barely touched on is that he used to be a good servant to Rohan, a mirror image of Saruman as a wizard to the Valar. The Uruk night camp at the eaves of Fangorn were actually 3 smaller scenes that were supposed to mark the passage of time, racing across the plains of Rohan, in fighting between the different factions of orcs, including those from Moria and Mordor joining Isengard's Uruk-hai, was barely touched on because it was unnecessary information, although it once again gave historical authenticity to Middle-earth. Legolas says in Elvish, "May they find peace in death," when the running trio believe they failed to save Merry and Pippin. Gollum leading Frodo and Sam out of Emin Muil was the first shot of the character ever filmed. Frodo appeals to Gollum bit by bit because he's the one who knows what it's like to possess the ring, emotions and dilemmas Sam could never understand. While there are times Andy Serkis overacts as Gollum, Peter wanted him to have a dramatic, less is more approach during intense scenes. A common mistake with animated characters in a live-action setting is to lean completely into body acting. To explain the metaphysical transformation Gandalf goes through to go from gray to white, meant showing, his death at Zirak-Zugil, and the stars flashing before his eyes, dialogue alone wouldn't be enough, despite that was all within the script. Gandalf reawakens naked, visible only through his shoulders. This is mentioned in the book as poetic writing, although unfeasible to show. The set Sam climbs to overlook the Black Gate was the next day after the actor Sean Astin got stitches at the bottom of his foot when he stepped onto a piece of broken glass during the Parth Galen scene in film 1. Eowyn had a deep depression that a few auditions seemed to grasp until Australian indie actress Miranda Otto's. It's a sad irony that Wormtongue is one of few to understand Eowyn's feeble position on power. Gandalf hides his wizard staff as best as he can once he enters Meduseld. Why wouldn't Wormtongue immediately object otherwise? Bernard Hill made an impression on Peter Jackson through British TV series Boys from the Black Stuff. He thought Bernard could play a king without all the cliches that typically come through such a role, even considered for the role of Gandalf at one point. Wormtongue's character adaptation began from Theoden's dialogue at Orthanc, that he used to be a man of Rohan. He wanted something that would be considered unobtainable to feel complete, like Éowyn's hand. But he also wanted an irrefutable part of the king's advisory court, meaning Saruman's wizardry was essential to his goals. Once he's rejected by both, he has nothing more to gain and can fully ally with Saruman. No parent should have to bury their child was an addition from Bernard Hill. He did that scene after playing all day with his son. Gandalf is a much drier and more manipulative figure in The Two Towers than he ever was as Gandalf the Grey. He takes Wormtongue's spot next to the throne, alluding to his manipulations, but for good this time. In the book, civilians stay behind while the warriors challenge Isengard directly before they retreat to Helm's Deep. The movie wanted to present stakes for the battle, as well as make it clear fleeing to Helm's Deep is a desperate maneuver. A distinctive change from the books is that Aragorn is excited to lead while in the films he is wary. Smeagol, temporarily excising the Gollum split in his personality, renders credibility that Frodo can save him. It also mirrors Gandalf's excising Saruman's influence over Theoden. Faramir's monologue on the unknown enemy soldier, Sam's thoughts in the book, was claimed to be a dilemma only someone who battled in a war could grasp. Tolkien probably considered that during his time in World War I. An unused scene features the moment Aragorn first saw Arwen in the woods, clean-shaven. It was intended as a flashback during Lothlorien in Fellowship, considering that is also where the lovers first met. Another flashback where Arwen's father tells Aragorn that she must make the trip to Valinor was actually at Gilrain's memorial. It's the end point of a Fellowship scene that cuts halfway through. Alternatively, the Warg attack took place at Edoras instead of on the road, being the reason why Theoden evacuated to Helm's Deep. It would have happened at night to anticipate. The need to disguise the CGI one warg on fire by flaming arrows would have dragged Aragorn away, rather than falling off a cliff as he does in the final cut. Budgetary concerns also included how Mount Sunday would be illuminated at night, considering the intense winds the location gets. The reason why they make Aragorn die a fake death was to make sure the character has status, rather than remain passive. He has to choose to warn Helm's Deep about the size of Saruman's army, and therefore lead them in defense. Aragorn's fake death also gave a story reason for the Warg attack. It gave needed tension for the survivability of the main characters. That is there in Fellowship through Gandalf and Boromir, but is not in Two Towers. Jed Brophy, the Warg rider, is a stuntman with many extra roles. He is the Rohan rider who discovered Theodred's body, and the "why can't we have some meat" orc. Not to mention, he would later go on to play Nori, one of the 13 dwarves in the Hobbit trilogy. Arrival at Helm's Deep was shot 2 years before the Warg attack scene. Characters react to Aragorn falling before it was decided whether the Warg scene would even be shot. The moment where Faramir discovers his brother's body in the canoe was not a flashback, but the recollection of a recent dream Faramir had. Gollum's interrogation used to be more violent, with the Aetheline Rangers treading on his fingers. That is why he walked with a limp for later parts of the movie. Faramir's confrontation after learning Frodo has the ring was the dialogue used for all actors auditioning for the part. Theoden gave a rallying speech that was so effective it was cut, for taking away the gnawing tension of the prelude to the battle. This happened as an extension to the scene in the armory where Aragorn argues with Legolas. Theoden gearing up is Peter Jackson's favorite scene in Two Towers. Haleth, son of Hama, was writer Philippa Boyan's son. The boy he stands next to when Aragorn calls for his sword was Viggo's son, Henry. The idea for this scene came from Viggo himself. The actor who played the Rohan warrior with one eye was grateful for his cameo because he lost all his self-consciousness over the disability ever since he revealed his face to the world without an eye patch. Audience irritation with cutting between the epic battle and pedantic Entmoot was intentional, makes siding with Merry's decision to go to war that much easier. The Rohan extra, who flies back from the harpoon, actually broke his leg landing off screen. In the book, Frodo is swayed by the ring to deliver it to the Witch King at Minas Morgul, which was the inspiration for the new climax of the Frodo-Sam storyline in The Two Towers. This makes the ring take over Frodo's mind a gradual process. The last shot of Éomer, where Gandalf says, "The Battle of Helm's Deep is over," is not actually the actor Carl Urban, but his stunt double. Writers considered it hard to adapt The Two Towers, as it was the slightest of the books. There were no plot reversals revolving around Aragorn with the people of Rohan, nor with Faramir ever being affected by the ring. The giant cliffhanger of Frodo captured by the orcs after his encounter with Shelob was not included up until the third film. It was also decided that Gandalf's ultimate confrontation with Saruman at Isengard, as well as Pippin foreseeing the doom in the Palantir, worked better as the beginning of a movie rather than the end of one. This has been Michael Schlosser with CultureSlate. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. You can also hit the bell icon and join our public Discord to stay up to date with all things CultureSlate. This is Michael Schlosser, signing off.